Dr. Baselga is the physician-in-chief of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and professor of medicine at Weill Cornell Medical College, president-elect of American Association of Cancer Research, and he received his medical degree from the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, and he completed a fellowship in medical oncology at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York some years ago. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to start talking about leadership. You are not only a physician, but also an executive of your institution. What kind of leadership, someone from like you, what kind of leadership as a Spaniard you can bring to an American institution? What's different?
Also, hello everybody, and thank you for having me here. I don't know why I'm sitting here because I am not an executive person. I'm just a physician, so I'm a very poor example to anybody. You know, we were not trained as executives, so everything that we do on the run and on the job. Basically, the way physicians live in this country, mostly in academic centers, is through a progression of an academic career. So the classical way that we progress is by starting as assistant professors, creating some programs, some lab research projects, then some clinical enterprises, and then you move up the ladder. And basically, we are leaders. We become in leading positions just by default, in a way. It's not something that has been planned. I think what's important in medicine for a leader is to be able to embrace and modify and make it your own a vision for what you do. You know, so it's about working in a place that has a very clear vision, and in a way, you are the person that is in a position that can make it happen or can be a facilitator. So basically, you are working every day very hard, trying to define and implement the objectives that you set up and that the hospital sets up with you together. So that's a key part. Leading by example, by the passion that you were mentioning before. Very important. You need to believe in what you do, and you will need to be able to convey that message. And then two things that are increasingly very important in medicine, and I guess in every single field, and it's about talent management. You know, we are who we are because we have the capacity to do two things. One is to attract talent to work with us, and then also to identify talent from within. So these medical students that are absolutely spectacular, you need to ear-tag them. You see them in the interviews, you identify them, and you make sure that you follow them, that you mentor their careers, that you can identify where they can shine, and then you move them along. So I think this is absolutely critical. And the place where I learned that, and I'm going to finish, but the place where I learned that the most is that just before I came back to New York, I was professor of medicine at Harvard, and I was the head of the division of oncology at Mass General. And one thing that struck me tremendously is that when I began working there, they called me from the medical school, and they said, you need to interview a medical student candidate. And I said, excuse me? I said, yes, you need to interview a medical student candidate. And not only that, but this medical student has some very critical questions. And we hope that you do a good job in making sure that this medical student comes to us. And this was like an experience, and since then on I just was volunteering, are there more medical students coming? That I could interview. And I think that's talking to the point that you were making before, the young people, you can see how these people are going to be the ones who are going to shine. So talent management, I think, is extremely important in what we do. And if we do this right, then these institutions have a life of their own.
And to have that ability to be able to manage talent, do you have to learn something new here in the U.S., or do you come with all that knowledge from your Spanish background?
Well, I think the Spanish background, what helps, if you believe in evolution, and in some parts of the US they don't, but in others they do, if you believe in evolution, and I do believe in evolution, I think that the Spaniards that come here is a very special crew of people, right? These have people that have survived through natural selection. These are people, so in a way, it's like a perfect experiment. I mean, you guys are the result of an experiment of nature. You know, you had the curiosity, so first you were curious, so you were not happy just to sit where you were sitting, no matter where you came from. So that's one component. The daring, the desire and the strength to do it. Then a little bit the craziness, because if you really understand the system in the US, you would never come. I mean, if I can understand the system, I would have not come, because our education at the college level and at the university does not, sorry about that, does not empower us at the same level, and this has been mentioned, that the good colleges and the good universities. So a little bit we are, at least those ones that we come, we are not really conscious of our disadvantages we are. You know, we come here and we think that we can do things well, and then and we do things well, but it's a little bit of daring there that after a few years you realize, oh my God, you know, I mean, how come? So I think that, and then of course to survive through the system and then to grow in the system. So there's a lot of selection. So I think the Spaniards that come here, and that's the strength of this country, is a very selected crew. And this applies to the Spaniards, this applies to the French, this applies to the Germans that come. So the country, this country in a way, benefits tremendously from that because they get the best of the best. These are, as again, is a true natural experiment. Darwin would love to write about this. He had to write about birds, but you know, I'm telling you, executives would be a better species to write. So I think that that's one component. Once you are here, I think you add to the system tremendously because you have this component of risk taking, and I agree with that as well. You know, you've come here through taking risks that sometimes were not really that rational. So once you are at this and it has been working, means that you are a good risk taker. Somehow you have the capacity to, read the situation a little bit and make decisions that most of the times, not always, are kind of right, and that helps you move forward. So I think that's an advantage. And then in medicine, I think what we can offer is that we have been used to achieve a lot of things with little resources. So therefore, there is an economy of resources that so we can do a lot with little. You know, there is the little kid that has been playing and making, having a good time with very rudimentary tools, and then all of a sudden goes to a place in which the resources are much more substantial. And therefore, with a good mind and being used to use less, when you are given the opportunity to work in a place that has a lot of resources at multiple levels, then you can make a lot. So that's a common story. So you have a lot of Spaniard investigators that come here, and once they are in the system and once they have survived, say, the first winter, these guys blossom and they do a good job.
Talking about risk-taking, because the previous panel was talking about how they had to relocate and how complicated that was for the families, and how sunny and nice Spain is, and the food and all those things. What do you have to give up professionally, not personally, but professionally, to achieve what you achieved here? Because I'm sure you could be living in Spain right now with a great position at a great hospital or university, enjoying the Spanish way of life instead of
so what you
living
give,
this winter.
So what you give professionally when you come to this country is that sense of status, stability, the sense that you are set, right? So, for example, in my own case, I was full professor, catedrático por oposición, you know, crazy system, but I got the point. So I was catedrático for life. No matter what I did, I could start even doing things, and some of them do, that are not very good, and yet it's almost impossible. Here, even you come here and they said, you are a full tenure professor. It's not the same. It's not the same. You're not really tenure. It's a fantasy. I can tell you every day. So you're losing that. But at the same time, is this what you want to do? Would you want to be a catedrático for your next 20 years? Or do you prefer to, every day in the morning, not knowing if this is going to be the last day that you're going to be a catedrático? I'll take the second, but that's what you give up, I think the food, the weather, the quality of life is grossly overrated. Nothing deprives you from have all these pleasures of life.
Do you think that's a myth?
I think a little bit, yes.
From us living here in this
I think so. And then the people from Spain that go back to the U.S., they complain all the time about the things that are available in New York and they don't have available in Barcelona. So it's so I've seen that going both ways.
Doctors in Spain or scientists in Spain, what are they best at? What can they bring to this country as a specialty?
Yeah, well, again, I think that the ones that get here are very selected because they're people that have the drive, have the desire, they have the interest, they're willing to take risks. So we have some absolutely superb Spaniard scientists and physicians in the U.S. and in New York. And the numbers are true. So like only in New York, not anywhere else. In New York City, the two biggest out of the four biggest academic centers in New York. So that's Columbia, that's Mount Sinai, that's the Cornell Memorial Sloan Kettering System, and that's NYU. Two physician-in-chiefs are from Spain. Chairmen of oncology, you have two that are from Spain in the city, chairmen of pathology, investigators, the lead neurologist that is tackling the problem of brain and bipolar disorders, and that has been basically laying out the agenda with Obama, is a professor of Columbia from Valencia. So I think that those that come here have, in many situations, remarkable careers. I think what they bring is this tremendous curiosity and desire to do things, and I think there are very good examples at doing that.
Are they so successful because the level of, or the quality of the medical schools in Spain is really high, or higher than we want to acknowledge, or any other reason?
So I think in Spain, the medical schools, and again, I was a professor there for many years, and I went to medical school there, so I have a good perception. It's a system, so I think the average of our alumni in medical schools, the average is clearly below the standard of what would be a good U.S. medical school. I mean, for North Americans to go to medical school is quite challenging. They need to go to pre-med. It's challenging to get in. They need to have very good scores. Then to go into medical school is extremely competitive. They have very good courses, very good mentors, so and very good training. So I think the majority in Spain is not at the level of the U.S. But then something happens very interesting. There's a top 2% or a top 3% of people in Spain that are the best students. And these guys are absolutely spectacular. And the system in Spain is lax enough that lets you do things that medical students here would never do. So you have guys that come over that they have done things that you would never, ever dream of doing here as a medical student. And therefore you have an elite, top of the class, that are absolutely outstanding. And this is classical of, I guess, countries like ours in which the systems are a little bit they're not well regulated, and therefore you have people that perform extremely well because the system lets them do that. It would be impossible as a medical student here to make decisions on how to take care of patients. And yet, a good medical student in Spain, from 5 or 6 years, they are in charge. Sometimes they are in charge, so they learn a lot. Or they are doing, with help, some surgical procedures that a medical student here would never do. So I think that's this duality that is there.
So for a medical student or someone with a medical degree in Spain, if they want to make the transition to come here, do we have to go back to medical school here to work as a doctor?
No, it's pretty simple actually. It's you need to take an exam that has 3 parts. It's quite doable. The Spaniards are used to study, so that's another advantage. The classical codos, so they're so they're very good at studying. So they usually perform well in exams. They do well. So these exams they pass them, and it's not challenging. I'm surprised that we don't have more physicians from Spain here under training, because it's not that difficult. At this point, there's a shortage of U.S. physicians, so some residency programs have difficulty in filling the slots. So no, it's not that difficult at all.
And is this a country for cancer research? Is that why you're here?
Yeah, well, I think that the U.S. clearly is the country for cancer research for a number of reasons. Research budgets, despite all the crises that is occurring at the level of the NIH and the NCI, National Cancer Institute, which is real, still has huge budgets for research. Philanthropy plays a huge role. So just to give you data, my hospital is Just Cancer, and we have a campaign until 2016 of raising funds, and we had raised, our goal is to raise by 2016 $3.6 billion, and we are ahead of schedule. So last year we received over $400 million of philanthropy support for our research, and our research budget, that's one hospital, is every year $700 million just for research. So that helps. Then you have a very vibrant, basic biomedical culture. And then a last component that I really need to talk to you about, because it's a tremendous opportunity, is the whole biotech industry. Biotech is extremely hot, is an area that in Spain is totally underdeveloped. The promise and the returns of biotech is huge. In Spain, in Europe, in the US, the expenditure in healthcare will increase no matter whatever the politics say. They say that we are spending too much. We are going to spend more. Health is important, and people will pay for it, and the governments will pay for it. So here what you have is also a very vibrant biotech culture, a lot of support from VCs that are willing to take on. I remember there was a very dear friend of mine from Barcelona that tried to build a company in Barcelona. Couldn't get the support, couldn't get the thing to go on. One day she said enough. She went to Boston, and the company is now extremely energetic, going forward. The money's coming in, and it's going to be a success story, I hope. But I think that that's also this drives the capacity to transform ideas into products, or to transform ideas into creating a company is very much in the system, and that facilitates the whole area of research. So I cannot see a country that is even close to the US in cancer research, and that has, by the way, tremendous returns to everybody. In our hospital, we have every year over $200 million that we get from royalties, from our discoveries and from our companies. So that's not a small amount of money. I mean, that is good money to burn, you know, to move forward with our research projects.
Okay, I think we're going to take some questions from the floor. Right here.
From where you are, when do you feel they're going to find a cure for cancer?
Not in our lifetime. Not in our lifetime. So you know, the war on cancer was extremely simplified. You know, it was born out of the Cancer Act of Richard Nixon in 1971, and it was just right after the U.S. had put a man in the moon, and in a way, the war on cancer was another moonshot, right? They said, we put a man in the moon in 9 years, we're going to cure cancer in 15. The reality is that cancer is extremely complex because it's a disease of our own cells. It's not a foreign infection, it's not a virus, it's our own cells that go wrong. We have over 200 cases of types of cancer, over 200, they are multiple. So I think it is very clear that we are making progress, and the mortality from cancer continues to decrease year by year. There's no question about that. But I don't think that we will see that's going to be one day that we will cure that. And cancer, by the way, is very resilient. Okay, even if we hit that cell hard and we say this is it, that thing will come back because it will find ways to adapt and to survive. Again, a cancer cell is using all our own mechanisms for survival, activates all the embryonic pathways that were used for us to grow to who we are now, activates all the growth mechanisms, activates all the metabolic pathways. It's a huge problem, and I think the reason for optimism is that now for the first time we begin to understand what is going on. Until now, we had no idea. Now I think in the last 15 years, we have been able to tackle what the issues are. So I think the mortality will continue to decrease, but cancer is not going to go away, I don't think.
Anybody else?
Why there are there more cases of cancer, or they are being detected, in a better way, the procedures have improved, or is the current conditions, the way we live, increasing the numbers?
Yeah. So it's the answer to this. The answer to this test question is all of the above. So yes, we have more cancer. So the incidence of cancer is rising. The main driver of increasing cancer rates is that our population is aging. Again, a cancer is the defect of the cells that divide. So as you live longer, there are more chances for DNA to go wrong and to develop mutations. So as the population ages, you're going to have more cancer. That's point number one. Point number two is that we are running, and this is good news, we are running out of competition, right? Cardiovascular deaths are decreasing. It's fascinating. Many hospitals in New York were built around a business model that was based on taking care of cardiac issues. So you had these huge cardiac surgery departments and cardiology. All these guys are losing money, all of them, because cardiovascular deaths are decreasing. So then if you don't die from cancer, if you don't die from wars, if you don't die from infections, and if you don't die from boredom, you die from cancer or Alzheimer, which is the two big things that we are facing. So I think these are the two big components the aging and the improvement in other areas. On top of that, are there some things that we do that are wrong? Absolutely. Obesity, big thing. Tobacco, although tobacco use has decreased tremendously. Then I'm sure that pollution plays a role. There's no question of that. So there's also some environmental issues that play a role as well.
Doctor Basabe, muchas gracias.
Encantado.
Ha sido un placer.